International Version of the Bible. Therefore, get rid of all moral filth and evil that is so prevalent, and humbly accept the word planted in you, which can save you. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do it says it is like someone who looks at his face in a mirror, and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they heard, but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do. Those who consider themselves religious and yet do not keep a tight rein on their tongues deceive themselves, and their religion is worthless. Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. You may be seated.
Chucky, can I ask you to go ahead and play that video for us?
In the state of Pennsylvania, there are approximately 14,000 children in foster care. Nearly 3,000 are waiting to be adopted. Their parental rights have already been terminated, and most of them will wait 5 to 7 years before finding a forever family. 1,100 of them will age out of the system this year in our state with no forever family, and when they age out, 80% of the boys will be in jail before 2 years, and nearly 70% of those girls will be pregnant and single before their 21st birthday. That doesn't even count for the number of them who will be sex trafficked or homeless or well below the poverty line. The outcomes don't look good for these children. And we say that's not okay, especially when there are nearly 14,000 churches in the state of Pennsylvania, all with a biblical mandate to care for orphans and vulnerable children. James 1:27 tells us that pure and undefiled religion before God the Father is this: to care for orphans and widows in their misfortune, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. Martin Luther once said that the world does not need a definition of religion as much as it needs a demonstration. Jesus came near. He wrapped himself up in our brokenness, and he was broken by our brokenness so that we don't have to be broken anymore. In the gospel, God says, I see you where you are, and I'm coming after you. Perhaps James is suggesting that the gospel is most purely put on display when we do the very same thing with our lives to those around us. One of the purest and the most undefiled demonstrations of the gospel is to move towards hard places and broken people, not away from them. Not just saying that we're against abortion, but we're for life, and I'm going to prove it by living pure and undefiled religion, by moving towards the hard place and the broken people. And when we do that, when we step towards the hard and the broken and not away, it puts the heart of God demonstrated in the gospel on display with clarity and purity and cleanliness unlike anything else. We know that not everyone can foster or adopt, but everyone can do something. What is your something? You can learn about next step opportunities if you visit keyfam.org/support families.
I'm going to invite Rachel to come on up and have a seat on the side with the microphone. And then while she's doing that, we're going to go ahead and pass around a clipboard on each side. And it's basically if you want to know more about Keystone Fam, Family Alliance, and what you as individuals can do, you can just sign your name, email, phone, and there's some information. You can prayer. Maybe you want to be put on the prayer email chain. Maybe it's you want a little bit more information about Gateway, which I think they changed the name from Gateway to something else, which we'll talk about that in a second. Maybe you're interested in fostering or adopting, or you know somebody that is, or maybe you just want to be part of the care community. So we'll start that on both sides. If you want more information, put your name and your information and check one or all of those boxes, if that's you. All right, well, it is exciting for me to have Rachel back with us today. She was here, a few weeks ago to kind of introduce the ministry to us, And but here's what we're doing. I felt like it was really something that the Lord really worked out. I felt the Lord leading me to change what I had originally thought was going to be a sermon series on peace, to changing that into a sermon series on the shalom, the peace that's found as we study through Psalm 23. Well, then last week I just was like, well, man, I saw in the scriptures how David lived this out by demonstrating the shepherd's love through his life and through his provision through into the life of Mephibosheth, which is what we talked about last week. And so this week we're going to talk about kind of how can we now as a church, through the avenue of Keystone Family Alliance, now do what David did in a way. So again, last week we saw this powerful picture of God's heart through David and Mephibosheth in that story. There was a table prepared, a covenant that was honored, an orphan that was welcomed home. This helps us to realize, Psalm 23 was God preparing a table. 2 Samuel chapter 9, David becomes that table, and in James 1:27, we're called to now be the church, to be that table. So today isn't just about hearing a sermon. Today is about seeing what this looks like right now in our own region, Franklin County. So I want to read again. We've heard it now a few times. James 1:27. James writes to us, religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. So James is not saying that only foster parents and adoptive families are the faithful. He says that the church is faithful when orphans and widows are cared for. So my hope is that through a ministry like Keystone Family, that we can be freed from this guilt of, well, I can't adopt, I can't foster care. Like that's not where I'm at in the stage of life, right? And so there shouldn't be any guilt with that. And some of you have adopted or foster cared, and that's amazing. And now you're in a different stage of life, but you can still, through what we're going to learn about, there are multiple pathways that we can still be obedient to caring for the orphan, the foster, the vulnerable, along with the widows. In a couple weeks, at the end of March, we're going to have a man here who is starting a ministry for widowers, because he himself unexpectedly became a widower. And there's a lack of ministry in the church for men that have lost their spouse. And he's going to be coming to talk about that with us. And so it's just an amazing way that God just opens the doors for the church to do what James 1:27 says. So we are again honored to welcome Rachel. She is the regional director for Keystone Family Alliance. Keystone exists to serve children in foster care, support biological families, to equip foster and adoptive parents, and to partner with churches, because no family should have to do this alone. Let's open with a prayer. Father, I pray that you would just take and bless this conversation. May you challenge us as a church. May you put a challenge in some individuals' hearts to answer the call and whatever that calling that you're drawing them to do is. And may you give Rachel and I the words to say as we enter into this conversation for the church to hear. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. So I had sent Rachel in advance a few questions, and she has kind of prepared some of these. And we've done this before, and sometimes the conversation leads elsewhere other than the questions. And I'm open to that. I think Rachel's pretty open to that. So we'll just see for the next 20 minutes where the Lord leads us in this conversation. So the first question that I sent to Rachel was this. Rachel, for those who may not be familiar, can you briefly share what Keystone Family Alliance does and why it exists? Did you make sure yours is turned on? Okay, great. You turned on. All right.
I have to chuckle that the verses in, am I on?
Yeah, can you guys hear her? Do we need to turn it up a little bit?
I have to chuckle that the verses prior to the James 1:27 talks about an unbridled tongue, or like bridle, like, you know, that's also an issue, and God's been working on me and there's opportunities I have to share, so I'm going to try not to overshare, but I'm
I think
so
we need to
grateful
turn
for
it
the
up. Sam, you're going to turn it up for us a little bit?
opportunity.
Okay, sorry.
No.
It's the one that's labeled Michelle on it. We have a mic named after Michelle here. Sam's taking care of it right now for us. Try it now.
Is this a little bit better?
Can you guys hear a little bit better now? Try it again.
Okay, we'll go ahead. I think I can hear it better now myself. Okay. Keystone Family Alliance. Yeah, so the questions are, what do we do and why do we exist? And I was thinking about this question and I thought I probably should start with who we are, because that really dictates what we do and why we exist. So we are a group of Christ followers here in the state of Pennsylvania, locally Franklin County. We also branch into Washington County, Maryland a little bit. But we're this group of Christ followers who have joined together to do something about the desperate needs that we have seen in the child welfare system. And so our mission and vision is to come into churches in our county and to educate, motivate, and equip everyone to be able to find something to do to help with those needs that we see in the child welfare system. So first of all, we're a bridge. Let's find the needs, let's take them back to our churches. And then secondly, we're kind of a backbone. We want to partner with 39 churches. We have this goal of 39 churches in every county. We want to align people with our Gateway, now Need Bridge platform. We want to just motivate everybody, but then we provide the structure, the training, the resources to help you do that. So it's kind of like we are setting the table out and inviting everybody to the table to join us, if we're going to use your example.
Yeah, so the question, a follow-up question would be something like, so what's happening right now, like in our region with children in foster, like maybe how many in Franklin County and maybe some needs that are out there specifically? How you might want to answer that.
Yeah, I just got the most recent update, so the end of January report, and actually I just saw the year-end report for what the state of the child welfare system is in Franklin County. So at the end of January, there were 95 children in foster care, and of those 95, about 31 of them are not in a home. I think it's 10 are in a residential facility, 21 are in institution, and 19 of them are in kinship family situations. So they're either with grandparents, aunt and uncle, somebody who they're biologically related to, or somebody who had a connection to them just as a family. So they don't have to be biologically related. So of that 95, 45 of them are actually in foster homes. One of the things I was looking through the year-end report, and so aging out youth is a huge thing, so we're really looking for mentors for some of our aging out youth. Last year, 34 children, ages 14 through 23, were able to receive assisted or independent living classes. So aging out, that's a big population of our child welfare system, those who are aging out of the system. We know 1,100 children in the state of Pennsylvania will age out every year without a forever family. So that's a little piece of what's going on.
Yeah, and so those aging out are the ones that he said in the video that will, males, a large percentage of them end up in prison. A large percentage of the females end up pregnant. Yeah, and so those are the needs where I think Jamie mentioned last week for us that she is stepping into a mentorship role with a 15-year-old teenage girl, and hopefully through Jamie's guidance we can help prevent that from happening, or Jamie can, and we can support Jamie in and through that ministry as well. So the second question that we have then is, when you think about the children that you serve or that Keystone family serve, what do you most want the church to understand about these kids?
Yeah, so since I had the opportunity to think and pray about the questions, I prayed about this, and the first thing that came to my mind is that image bearers. Every person is an image bearer, and I've been challenged recently to consider looking at everybody who's before me as an image bearer of Christ, because I sometimes see them as their brokenness and not as who they are in God's eyes. And so I want you to see these children as image bearers. When we were expecting our fourth child, our daughter, she was coming to us by adoption. I have a verse for each of my children, and God's verse for her to me was, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. God knows every day ordained for us before any one of those days comes to be. And I want you to see that as these children are image bearers in spite of what has happened to them. But I also think about the enemy's attack on humanity doesn't exclude children. And we're to look at children as an example of how to come to Christ. And the enemy wants to break that. And so I want you to see the work of the enemy, be aware of his war against children, and how they're just caught in his crosshairs.
Yeah. And I mentioned this last week when we talked about Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth came to David's table with an identity of broken. He came as an invalid. He came as the enemy. He was Saul's. He was a descendant of the previous king, an enemy. And so David didn't call him that. He called him by name. And so, like Mephibosheth with David, he wasn't a problem to manage. Often, I think, even our government, it's a problem to fund their, the foster system, the welfare system. It's a burden on the taxpayers, or these are things that we say, but the reality is that these are people bearing the image of God. These are children that often probably go into a home thinking, I'm just a troublemaker. I'm just a burden on this foster family. I'm not loved. I just get passed around from home to home. And what we're hoping, I think what the ministry is hoping to do by supporting foster families so that when they're not getting to the place of we literally can't afford it. Instead, the church is saying, we're going to help you afford it. And then the family, that child gets some security in one home. And so I think that's what what I'm hearing you say is we're wanting these children to realize these are image bearers of God. They are potential children of God, our potential brothers and sisters in Christ. And this gives us an opportunity to show them the love of God through the ministry. Thank you for sharing that. So a third question that we had sent was, many people feel compassion. They see the need, they feel compassion, but there's also some fear. Like they fear that they're not equipped. There's a fear of the system. There's a fear of getting too attached. What would you say to some of those fears?
I think a lot about fear because I think we all have our own fears, and these questions about fears, they're valid. Excuse me. Our executive director that you heard on the screen, he says we invite people to wreck their lives. So I try to be very upfront with people. Fostering, getting involved with children, involved in the child welfare system, all parts of that. It's not easy. It's not pretty. It's moving towards the hard and the broken. But I want to, practically answer some of those fears, like the fear of I'm not equipped. we actually have more information available us today than ever before about how to handle children who are coming from a hard place. Do we have all of the answers? No. Do we want more answers? Yes. There's so much information out there. It's one of the things Keystone Family Alliance actually does is we help to equip foster families, anybody who's stepping into the space of working with vulnerable children, because we want them to be well equipped, because it's important. But it is a valid fear. You know, there is that. What if I can't? The truth is, any of us could have a child by birth who has some of these same situations that we don't feel equipped. It's cliche, but it's true. God doesn't call the equipped. He equips the called, and he will do the equipping. The second fear was that of the system. I'm afraid of the system. What does that look like? And I just want to assure you, the people involved in the child welfare system, caseworkers, they're people just like you and I. They just have a really hard job to do, and that's keeping families safe, children safe. And sometimes they have to follow through on a referral of concern. They have to do that job. But there again, trusting in God to walk through that is where your faith is kind of where you have to fall back on. And then the third one is kind of my favorite, because that is probably the comment given to me the most as we fostered. Oh, I just couldn't do that. I would get too attached. How do you do that? I wouldn't want to give them back. And I know exactly where that comes from, but I want to just kind of turn it a little bit and help you understand, help people understand that is the point of foster care. We want children to attach to us. A child has to attach to a primary caregiver. The rest of their life's relationships depend on a healthy attachment. And so I would rather lay down my life and my heartache so that a child can have a healthy attachment, even though I might have to say goodbye at some point. And so I think we just have to turn that a little bit on its head and say it's a good thing. I'm going to lay down my life. I'm going to sacrifice for this child to have what they need.
Yeah. So, I just think about, again, last week we talked about, well, as we worked through Psalm 23, I will walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and I will fear no evil. There's when we walk with the Lord and what he's calling us to do, where he's leading us, because he's leading us down those right paths, then we can say, you know what, there's a lot of uncertainty for me, but my God knows where he's taking us. Our God knows where he's leading us. And so God is guiding us and directing us. He is sovereign through all of this. He's the one that ultimately matches the foster child with the fostering family, and matches the church with the ministry that we can then serve and help. And if Salem gets to the point where one of those things that we could do is we can foster a foster family, it's kind of a conversation. If the Lord leads us and guides us and saying, hey, there is a family maybe here in Waynesboro, maybe over in Greencastle, and they really could use some help, and Salem says, hey, we're going to talk about this, we're going to look at what the needs are, and God leads us to answer that call, God paired that. God is the one that made and aligned those things to happen. Fear is what kept Mephibosheth in Lodabar. He never left. He probably didn't want to leave when he got the call from David. But he did come. He did respawn. He did show up in the palace. And then it was the covenant love that David had that said, do not fear. And God has told us 365 times, I've heard in the scriptures, do not fear. And if God is leading us as a church, if God is leading you as a family to foster, if he's leading you as an individual to step into a mentorship role, do not fear, because God is going to equip you to do the thing that he has called you to do. Yeah. Anything else?
One of my favorite verses is just that when I am weak, then he is strong. His power is made perfect in my weakness. I will boast all the more in my weakness so that the power of God can be revealed in me. It's for God's glory when we're weak and he is shown to be strong. And that's where I've had to land as a foster mom. As a mom of a 26-year-old and a 3-year-old, that's an interesting journey there. And even as I stepped into this role with Keystone Family Alliance, God does the equipping. God's power, I
Right.
believe, is made known.
Yeah. So another question that I had asked Rachel was, not everyone is called to foster or adopt, but everyone can do something. So what are some different ways individuals and churches can come alongside these children and these families?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to us having this backbone structure, the bridge and the backbone. So through a Keystone Family Alliance, we've kind of focused on several main areas, and one of them is, and you've alluded to it, I didn't give a lot of good information, but it's what we call care communities. It's a wraparound support for foster families, kinship families, adopt families, even biological families who are at risk of losing their children. And this is just a group of individuals who said, we're committed to being your community for a year. I like how you worded that. We're going to foster a foster family. We want to provide hands-on, very practical needs for you. And that is probably one of the more committed ways you can get involved. I'll talk about some very quick, easy ways to get involved. But doing that can mean you provide a meal every week for the family, so that they're, as a group of 4 or 5 of you, you're only taking a meal once a month. Maybe you're helping with some transportation, maybe some babysitting. We have a care community one lady on that care community for one of our families is house cleaning and doing some laundry every week. I'm still waiting for her to come to my house. I would love to have her at my house too. So just some very practical ways to free that family up so that they can focus on the children in their care. So those are care communities. That's a huge need, a huge blessing to families. Another way is to find ways to encourage and support our caseworkers through the county, through private agencies. So we have churches who are doing some things to help with that. Mentoring, as Jamie has stepped into, we have hired an actual mentoring director, and so that program is taking more shape. But I'm able to make some connections now, and actually that has become a huge request from CWAT Children and Youth Services. They keep asking for mentors. And so I'm looking for more of those. But the quickest, easiest way to get involved, and you're going to have some information later come out, is through what we call Gateway, or we used to call Gateway. It's now called Knee Bridge. Don't get confused by the language. You're going to see it all listed as Gateway. It's the same thing. But it's a platform where caseworkers or people working with these families, vulnerable families, identify needs, tangible needs, formula, diapers, a mattress. They post those needs on the Gateway platform, Knee Bridge, we're going to call it Gateway, and then volunteers who have signed up simply get an email and say, here are the needs. And then those volunteers, it's up to them whether they decide to meet a need. Has God led you to go buy some formula to help with this family who's struggling? And then it connects you with the person who posted that need. And since May of last year, we have met close to 100 needs through that program. And CYS it's been a huge blessing to them. That they're able to take these things to help, a lot of times, to keep a family together.
So probably something you're a little bit less hesitant to mention, but your salary comes through church support and the other staff, right? So financially is a big piece of that. We have a $82,000 budget for this year because we are planning to hire an assistant. We've had some rapid growth in the county, which is amazing. We're seeing great things through our church partnerships, and just as everybody comes together. But it's not only salary. There's just a lot of my salary, but central team. Some goes back to take care of all of the resources that they give to me. But some of these platforms, it covers those. Some events and free events that we have throughout the year. Thank you for. Yeah. So there's just other ways too. Financial prayer through, again, something that we already do really well here is providing meals for invalids. Like we've had people with surgeries. Well, it would really just be taking something like that and then us coming alongside and saying, hey, we're going to provide a meal for this family once a month or whatever the need might be. And as the Lord opens those doors up. I have here, not everyone can do what David did with Mephibosheth. But think of it like a potluck. When we get a whole church together, we can put on some pretty nice meals and feed a lot of people with the potluck when we gather together. And so everybody, when we gather together as a church body, we can set a table for a foster family. We can meet some needs. I have already started sharing by email. I forward to the church, the gateway, some of the new and updated needs. Some of you may have been seeing those as I forward them out, but there's going to be some information in these flyers about some of that. Two questions left. But here's a question that I said: can you share a story where the church stepping in made a real difference for a child or a family?
Yeah, so it's been really neat over the last year to watch this happen. And a couple stories really stand out to me. We have a family in Chambersburg, a foster family, who they're going to have 7 foster children. I believe they're all under the age of 6 or 7. So a large number of foster children. One was a sibling group of 4, and they actually had to build bedrooms in their basement for them. And in preparation of them coming, they were only able to take 1 and then 2. And then I think they just recently were to get the other 2. But in this situation, they had a need to get these bedrooms built, and so we posted on Gateway that we needed lumber. And so we had some financial donors for that. And then one of our, actually it's a church, but the man who kind of spearheaded it is another foster family. He called some men in his church, and they actually came in and did the bedrooms in the basement.
Wow.
So they just worked together to do that. And then there's a church in Mercersburg who found out there was a grandma at risk of losing a grandson. She was caring for a grandson, and they needed work done on a trailer. It sounded significant. I remember personally looking at the need going, oh my, that's a lot to ask. Well, those men in that church gathered some resources, and they went in and they fixed up that trailer for the grandma.
Nice.
So those are just a couple things. I mentioned the other foster family, or that they actually, this is one of the things that I am really passionate about in the counties, that we're uniting churches to work together. So we have a church in Waynesboro serving a foster family in Greencastle. They're the ones that are getting the house cleaning that I'm still trying to get a part of. And that church that they attend has just become a partner church, and this foster mom is going to be an advocate for her church. And so it's going to be one church serving another church who's going to advocate for other foster families. And it's just this beautiful picture of us coming to a table that's set for all. Not just to have a Salem table over here and a Waynesboro Grace table over here, but we can work together. I like your potluck idea. I was thinking of it as place settings.
Yeah.
Like here's the table. KeyFam has a whole bunch of place settings over there. Pick your place setting, and if you want to have the foster or the mentoring place table setting, get that. Right, Jamie? You got the mentoring table setting. The care community table settings, we're going to all just set a table for all of these things, because the goal is that there will be more than enough foster families, more than enough support for foster families, more than enough mentors, more than enough encouragement for kids. We just want to move the needle. We want to just make a difference.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Stories really make a difference when we sit and hear different ways that other churches and other families and individuals are making a difference. So the last question, and as I ask the question, I'm going to have Dennis and Deidre pass around or offer these flyers. So the last question was, for someone who feels the Spirit moving or stirring in them today, what's a simple first step that they can take to meet the needs? So maybe you can explain what's in those, and then answer that in any other way.
Sure, yeah. So what you're going to get here is one of our Keystone Family Alliance brochures. It probably just kind of tidies up what I said here and gives you a better summary of what our ministry is. There is an invitation in there for our fundraiser and awareness event. We do one main fundraiser every year, and so that our goal is to raise the majority of our salary through our budget through that one fundraiser. So there's an invitation for that. And then there is, you probably saw it up here on the screen when Vince was talking, it's actually the back of your card, but it talks about Gateway, Care Communities, and Foster to Adopt. So there's some QR codes, and on the back there's actually the websites. So lots of information there for you. Don't feel overwhelmed. But the simplest first step would be to sign up for Gateway. And just let the Lord lead you, and maybe what are some needs that you can meet. If you feel like God is stirring your heart, there are more ways that you can get involved. That's just the simplest. A partnership between Salem and Keystone Family Alliance, we encourage each partner church to find an advocate. That's a volunteer advocate, someone who is going to be the point person to say, I'm going to commute. They're going to meet with me. We have alliance meetings, and it's when our church advocates all come together and we talk about the needs, or I reach out and say, hey, you guys got some people in your church who you think might want to step in and help this. That advocate then brings the needs to the church. And they're usually somebody who's very passionate about this space of child welfare, and they're motivated to help motivate and equip their congregation, their brothers and sisters in their church. So we are probably looking for an advocate at Salem.
Yeah. So to clarify, the advocate's not supposed to be the pastor, right?
It's supposed to be a volunteer.
It's supposed to be a volunteer. Not to say, like, I will come alongside whoever would say, hey, I want to be that advocate. Obviously, I will be your number one cheerleader and support here at the church. But I think the idea is it's supposed to be a volunteer in the church. So if anybody is feeling led to be that advocate, please come and talk to me and Deidre, and we'll figure out what that would look like. One question about this, we had mentioned Salem is going to sponsor a table at the fundraiser banquet. So I need people to join me because Deidre's working that night, so she won't be able to join me. But I'm going to need some people to join me for that date,
It's a free meal.
It's a free meal,
Yep.
right? And then
March 24th.
March the 24th. So it also means Spiritual Council will have to reschedule the date for our meeting. But I am looking for, how many people at a table?
Technically 8, but I've got somebody with 19.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
we'll just put
So
tables.
we're
they're long,
looking
but-
for at least 7 more people to join me, but if we have more than that, then we can always get another table if we need to. So that's one other thing that we can do, and show our support by attending the fundraiser banquet and being ready to give as the Lord would lead you at the banquet as well. Well, do you have any final thoughts or things you would like to share with Salem before we move on with our service?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you to Pastor Brent for his heart for ministry, his heart for helping his church and congregation to be obedient to the call to care for orphans and widows. I just learned about Matthew Robinson's new ministry. I followed him on Facebook for a little bit, and so I'm super excited about that. I love, just love learning how we can care for all hurting, all vulnerable people. But it is a good day anytime that I can declare with others the goodness of God, as we sang earlier. And so thank you.
Let's give Rachel a round of applause for being here for her ministry. Thank you. Well, Salem, I think that this is James 1:27, true religion with skin on it. This is Psalm 23 lived out. This is a table prepared not by a king, but by God's people. And so I want to give 3 takeaways. Just first pray. Ask where you fit at the table. Ask God where you fit at the table. Then learn. Don't decide based on fear or assumptions. Take a look at those flyers. Go to the website. There are other churches in our area that if you want to learn more, I'm sure the pastors and the volunteers there she mentioned Grace, Waynesboro Grace is one of them, and you could get some more information from other churches. And then the third is act. Even just a small faithfulness. Small acts of faithfulness change lives. So Mephibosheth always had a seat at the king's table. The children in foster care today are asking the same question, is there room for me? And may Salem Church be a place where the answer is always yes. Father, thank you for this time. I pray that you be with these children in foster care. Be with the families that are stepping up and stepping in to meet needs, and be with the churches that are helping to meet needs. And I pray that you give your people courage to answer the call to set a table. In Jesus'